안녕하세요. 점심 잘 드셨죠? 한국어 안 되죠? Okay, well, no response. I thank the international guest here so that I can present in English. Even though I look like a Korean, my native language is in English, so here we go. I chose the title, Next Generation Scholarly Publishing Platform, because I'm a glass half full kind of a guy and I like to dream about the future. I'm not in business of publishing or deeply involved in creating a publishing platform, so my 2 cents on Next Generation SPP is from the perspective of a user. I do moonlight as an associate editor for an open access journal called GISTAP, Journal of Information Science Theory and Practice, and I'm a full-time academic, so I'm a producer and the consumer of the content, academic content. And in my former life, I was a systems developer, so my presentation comes from a perspective of a former developer trying to fill the need of the user of this kind of a platform or the system. So, as we know, the scholarly publishing is a subfield of publishing, where the academics do research and publish their works for dissemination after the peer review, and we can see that it's quite a large market with a high demand. So the players, in the micro view, are the academics who produce and consume content, in the journal who does the quality assessment and control by doing the peer review, and the publishers who produce and disseminate these content. But then there are the university libraries who traditionally provided access to the readers and pay attention to preservation issues. And there are abstract and indexing services that provides an entry point for these 2 million or so articles that gets published every year. And then, of course, we can't forget the funding agencies who fund the researchers to produce this work. So traditionally, the scope of the system was kind of narrow. It was really about facilitating the editorial management process. But I like to really think of a platform as with a much larger scope that encompasses the entire, all the players and all their needs and preferences. So academics, so I'm going to kind of gloss over the next few slides because previous presenters covered it in very thorough, nice fashion. But the basic need for academics are they like to publish their work very quickly and have it available for as many peers as possible. And for journals, journals live and die by quality submissions. You don't get good submissions, journals die. So you like to have the lots of quality submissions. And of course, the effective peer review is very, very important. And it is known that across journals, the quality of peer review is quite different. And even within the same journal, depending on who the reviewers are, the peer review is not always the same. And of course, to speed up the publishing the life cycle, you have to have efficient workflow. And for the publishers, I think in the future, the publishers will have to adapt to the different revenue model, especially in Asia, because the environment is slightly different and the way things work is slightly different. And a lot of the service they provide will really have to bring about a very high customer satisfaction level. And ANI services, what they want is indexability, and the data that comes to them has to be easily aggregatable. And for the likes of the citation indexes, the data normalization is very, very important. The authority control with the DOIs and ORCID and things like that would be a very important issue. And university libraries, of course, they like to produce more quality for the cost. And I think it's directly tied to the data curation, especially the digital curation. And what I mean by that is not just preservation and maintenance, but the quality selection, and most importantly, adding values, enhancement of these data. And I think the publishing platform devised in the correct fashion can facilitate the process. And of course, funding agencies like to see a high research impact for those research that they fund, and they like to be able to measure that. And the big thing is, especially this is for the like NIH and NSFs, the data reusability. They sink millions of dollars into the researchers and they produce their output, and they like the data that researchers produce to be reusable, not just the findings. So these are the needs of the players involved. And quickly, just look at the trends. The information communication technology is really changing the way we produce, disseminate, and consume information, and the penetration of this ICT is really large in Asia. So Asia is really going to be a big market in every aspect, especially publishing as well. E-publishing is big, according to the recent article that I read. In the past 12 or 13 years or so, there was about $3.5 billion invested in developing these tools and services for the electronic publishing. And that makes things faster, more cost-effective, and very versatile. I think the versatility is the thing to look for in the future. Online access. Virtually all the journals now provide online access, whether they are print only, well, it used to be print only and subscription-based or open access. They do provide online access, and most university libraries have subscribed to some kind of a e-journal package. And, need I say more about open access? It's a trend to be reckoned with, and there are lots of mandates spinning up their process. And now, again, the point about Asia, as the previous presenters have explained, the growth in research output and the research themselves are much faster in Asia these days than the Western world. And the nature of research really has changed. The research these days are very data intensive. They generate a massive amount of data. And the funding agencies really care about reuse. So what that means is, what is the solution? What is the answer? That's the data creation again. You have to tag those data. You have to document how data is generated, how the research is conducted, what those fields mean, all these things. You have to validate, you have to preserve. So this is the task of data creation. And I think this is something that the library, information and library science community has been looking at, but the scholarly publishing community is beginning to look at, but haven't really progressed very much. And I think in the future, this is going to be a big area. So the platform has to, or from the user perspective, I would like to see a platform supporting all phases of this life cycle by enabling efficient workflow and supporting the quality production, facilitating the publication process, helping preservation and promotion. But overall, the platform has to be very easy to use because the users, the main users, are the editors, and they're not really tech savvy in a lot of cases, especially in social science and arts and humanities. So easy to use system is a must, and it has to be flexible. A lot of systems, they have to make it very generic. The interface and the face of the journal is the same. I think journal branding speaks to the promotion, so the platform should support a customized interface. And it has to be extensible. New things are happening all the time, new tools and services, new standards. So the platform should be architectured in a very modular fashion so things can be plugged in as need arises. And interoperability is a key issue as well. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Other people are developing different tools like Fedora and things like that, so you should be interoperable with those things to really enhance the functionality of your platform. So if you look at some of the features, and I'm kind of going to gloss over this because later on the Dr. So will have a benchmarking of the existing systems. And I just want to point out a few things here. First thing is the compliance with metadata harvesting protocol. I think this is extremely important so that the indexing services and discovery services can come and grab the data without having to go through your own proprietary format. You know, if you abide by the protocols and standards, it will make things so much easier for the indexing services. Also, I see a lot of the systems beginning to use journal tagging schemas. You know, one of the things that I see a lot is NLM, journal publishing tags. Now, this is very, very important. It's a lot of work, but this will help enhance display, archival, and discoverability. But more importantly for the future is it really increases the granularity of the document. The boundary of an article is no longer an issue. You can hone in on the specific portion of the document and interconnect it with the related content to really make it a very dynamic, what I call a virtual collection per se. And to do that, you're going to need a lot of other discipline tools like machine learning and data mining and things like that as well. Lots of copies keep stuff safe. I'm a believer in keeping multiple copies, and I think this is a nice mechanism for your preservation. So let's look at, from the beginning, what a platform can do for the users. First is the solicitation of articles, and this is for journals. You know, journals really needs to solicit for articles. So what can platform do to help this? First thing is, the platform should have a database of potential submitters. Now, that's going to come from the registration database the journal has for its users, but also through some data mining tools and querying the market database to identify potential researchers and the scholars in the field of that journal. I think that will facilitate things. And you have to disseminate the call for papers, and you want to make it professional. So the platform should provide the templates, professional-looking call for papers, not just text emails. They can be disseminated through various channels, like the social media, RSS, or Atoms. So these kind of things should be really integrated into the platform. An indirect way a platform can help the solicitation of the article submission is promoting the newly published article, one, and marketing the journal, two. So how do you promote newly published articles? Well, the traditional way of sending out newsletters to your potential audiences, and then now through the social media and a push service like RSS. You can also provide author profile pages that's tied to your journal homepage. The platform can do this, where the newly published article for the author is automatically updated so people can see the new publications for the authors they're interested in. Also, the new trend is the live article, where the post-publication, the readers can annotate, comment, and discuss about the article amongst the readers and with the authors to keep the article alive, and that helps dissemination citations as well. For the journal promotion, the publishing platform should help the journal to create a customized, professional-looking journal website. And I call that journal branding, and I think there's a lot that can be done by the platform, but I think the flexibility and customizability is important functions that the platform should provide. When the articles come in, the submission process for authors, there should be a clear guideline online, so the platform should provide some functions to help the submission process. And as a submitter myself, I like the downloadable templates. You know, that really helps me put my submissions according to the guidelines of the specific journal. And of course, you have to have a user login system. It's a single database, but interface should be separate for different users of the system, the editors, reviewers, authors, and readers. And you have to have an easy-to-use article submission interface. You'd be surprised at how many submitters, especially non-native speakers, have difficulty with what you think is a easy submission interface. So you will get things, submissions in English. Then you have to go back and forth, which slows things down. So context-sensitive help, frequently asked questions, Q&A, those kind of features should be integrated into the platform. So there should be this article submission process is very, very easy. And for the editors, you should be able to manage and to track the articles. So you have to have the tracking database. And you not only accept the supplemental material like the research data, the platform should have a provisions for what to do with them. How to store it, how to preserve it, how to add values to it through the curation process. And we talked about plagiarism detection. I think it should be integrated. Once the article is submitted, it should automatically go through the plagiarism software. And then when the EIC or the editors check in an article, the result is there, so that they can make a decision as to reject the paper immediately or send it back for some additional editing. Now, the peer review process. What can a platform do to help the peer review process? Well, one of the big difficulty for the editor is to selecting the best reviewer for a given article. And a platform can supply a database, a pool of candidate reviewers. Of course, the editor will have to choose, but having a list with lots of data, their performance history, and the manual assessment of the editors in their past history and their current status, the editor can search and filter and choose the appropriate reviewers for a given article. And the dynamic article status interface is very important. The editor should be able to log into the system and see exactly where the article has been, what it is doing now, and what things needs to be done. Having editors having to go through the emails or doing a bunch of phone calls or whatnot just to try to figure out where things are. I think this is no longer it should be the way things are done. And I think platform can help facilitate that process. Of course, tied to that is automatic notification system that not only sends out the reminders for the deadlines, but also the action item list. These things need to be done to editors and reviewers as well. And support for editor task. One thing I'd really like to see is a dynamic query interface so that editor can query the database to get dynamic status report. So if I want to know what the acceptance rate was for the last 3 months, who submitted, submitters, nationality, and discipline, things like that. I'd like to see that without having to go back to the developer and say, hey, can you do this? I mean, that's what relational database is all about, dynamic queries. So I think with just some SQL and nice, PHP interface, these things can be done. So the platform should integrate these kind of functionalities into it. For reviewers, what can platform do to help their quality of their review? A journal called PeerJ have what's called a preprint service. And this is basically a preprint server where the authors can put up their preprint papers before it goes to peer review to get feedback from the community of their peers. Right now it's being used mostly for enhancing or streamlining their articles, but I think this can be a part of a tool for assisting in peer review process. So when the reviewer actually get the article to review, you should have an online interface that harvests the data from this preprint service, which will also trigger some altmetrics data, to the Twitters and Facebooks and whatnot. So harvest those data, and also the click-through data. So how many people, they didn't say anything, but they actually looked at them. So these kind of things, it's not the deciding factor for whether to publish the article or not, but just kind of a additional supplemental data that may help the reviewer. Other functionality that's very important is the article that you review should be live. All the citations should be linked, so I can click and look at the article. Not only that, the related articles should be presented to you as a link, so I can look at the contextual material. And that way I can also look at their literature review section and say, hey, have they covered all these things? So these kind of very simple tools that's integrated into the platform, I think, can really assist in the peer review process. And review submissions should be done all online, and after initially you submit your review, you should be able to look at other people's review for possible adjudication, adjustment, and the previous presentation's idea of journals sharing the peer review, I think that's an excellent idea, excellent way to go as well. And the reviewer, we have to support them. Mostly they're done, they do this pro bono, so there's no money paid to them. So we have to reward them somehow, and one of the things that might help them is having some kind of a point system to reward them, which can work towards reducing their APC when they do want to publish. Okay, so it'll motivate them, some kind of incentive. In the production process, the simple things like a reference validation, which is going to be a crucial thing for the indexing services. Not only the style, but the validation of the reference. Some of that can be automated. And for the typesetting and the copy editing, you can also provide support. Instead of having these people, go out and use tools, external tools, having things interoperable or being integrated, they can have the things all at their fingertips in the platform. I think this will really speed up the workflow. And the digital curation, I think this is the production really should pay attention to the curation. So the identifier assignment, like a DOI logit, and document tagging. I don't believe that this can be done totally automatically. I mean, right now, I think this is mostly done manually. I think there's some kind of hybrid solution with the machine learning and data mining methods. A lot of this can be done, and then the indexer can function as a validator to really process a large amount of the content that is really being handled these days. And of course, you need to relate the content together, so that's machine learning classification clustering. So these tools has to be integrated as well. And the document has to be flexible. So usually the tag document will be stored in XML. So not only have to convert to PDF, but do some XSLT to have the nice flexible dynamic interface in HTML or DHTML. So these kind of things will, this support for these kind of things should be worked into the platform as well. And I mentioned the virtual collection. If you did the data creation correctly and tag the document, now the users can have their virtual collections. I'm interested in, say, a scholarship publishing platform, and instead of the entire document as a unit, you can select a portion of the document that is most relevant to you and relate it to a related content in a very dynamic fashion. And I think that will really bring up the value of the journal, and it'll really bring up the satisfaction level of the users, and it'll just good all around. And the live document interface I mentioned before. And of course, for the promotion, you provide templates, you provide channels, you have the services, and all these things exist today. But as a platform, you should really integrate all these things. I mean, that's what platform does. In the dictionary, the definition of platform is a flat surface that's raised up. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You have to just have these things integrated. At least have the interoperability so you can interface with the existing tools. and services. And for preservation, you have to have a robust archival material. I think for the short term, you should have some kind of a in-house hosting, even though it's not mandatory, but you should have, through the LOCS or CLOCS, multiple backup and off-site repositories, and of course, you should have interoperability with the digital repository systems like the Fedoras. So this is just the general things that are being done, but I like this, the dynamic system update that's triggered by system changes to ensure that when a software or the production system changes, the content is backward compatible. And I think this is a big thing in curation and preservation issue, and I think platform can help do that process. This is just a visual representation of what I just talked about. And so we come to the final slide of my vision of the platform. It's going to be online, not just the output of the scholarly publishing, but the whole process will be online, integrated, and it will be open access. It will be customizable. One thing I do not like about, should I say the name? ACOMS, is that to make it generic, to fit the need of the many people, it is inflexible. It doesn't do journal branding. I think that should be changed. It has to be extensible. New standards are going to come. New peer review models are going to come. New way of assessing impact is going to come. New preservation techniques are going to come. You're going to have to, you don't have to reinvent the wheel or to try to develop all those tools. People will develop these things. So you have to be interoperable, and you have to build, just plug in just the modules if you build your platform in a very modular way. Cloud computing. The SaaS, software service, is big. What cloud computing does for scholarly publishing is that it really removes a lot of the resource requirement for the journal operators. You know, in Korea, the societies run the journals, so they don't have the resources to really host things or to have the necessary software, things like that. We're having things on the cloud, and preservation and the storage as well. Really reduce the burden of that, the resource. So cloud computing, I think, is a really important step. The adaptation of cloud computing in Korea is kind of slow, but I think we can change that in this scholarly publishing, and scholarly publishing can kind of lead the use of the cloud computing in Korea. And I think that is one of the things that platform should support. I'm going to come back to the platform as a service. The virtual collections, the integrated, connected content. You know, the content no longer has to be static or be fixed by the boundary of the article. And to do that, we have to have a metadata. We have to have a nice curation process. New mode of peer review, not only the altmetrics and the different bibliometric measures, we should also harvest web logs to see the click-through data and these kind of things. You know, the search engines these days do what's called bucket listing. So, you know, utilizing the click-through data just to get user feedback, and that can be employed by the scholarship publishing as well. The other curation support. I think here, really, the library community and the publishers can do a lot. I think this might be really the thing that they can excel at. And the platform, of course, should be there to support that process. And finally, I think the platform as a service may be a way to go, especially in Korea. Because as I said, there's not enough resources on the society's part. Not only that, the scholars want to focus on the business or the scholarly activity of publishing and not worry about the technical aspect. So having a platform that is kind of a black box, where the customization is done to fulfill the need and preference of the individual journals. After that is being met, the rest of the technical issues are being handled on the platform side so that the journals can focus on what they do best, which is peer review and selecting and curating the content for public consumption. Well, I think that's 30 minutes. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. for your presentation.